All right, let's now explore how we can use generic interfaces. So let's imagine that we want to create an interface for a message, right? So I'm going to say interface message. And let's say that it has a sender, which is going to be a string, then a recipient, which is going to be a string, and then the actual content of the message. But let's imagine that we aren't too sure what the type will be. So maybe it will be just a string. Maybe it will be an object with more detailed information and we don't really know precisely the structure of the object, right? So we aren't sure. What can we do? We can use a generic again. So my first task is, similarly to the function, after the name of the interface in this case, to put my favorite angle brackets and write some sort of a placeholder. In this case, I'm just going to use the T letter. And then I'm going to mention the same letter inside of my interface as the type of my content. So this basically means there will be an actual type, right? It's not going to be just a random T. The T is currently a placeholder, which is going to be replaced by an actual type when I start using this interface. All right, and let's now do so. So I can create message 1, which will be a type message. And clearly I'm currently missing something, but I'm going to show that in a bit. For now, I'm just going to leave it this way. And I'm going to start filling in the structure, right? So I need a sender first. Let's say Bencho. I need a recipient. Let's say Mincho. And thirdly, I need the content. So the content, oops, I forgot the equal sign though, because this is an object. So the content, let's say that in this case, it's going to be a string. So hello, it's me, like this. Fantastic, we're almost done with this, but look at what this is saying. Generic type message of T requires one type argument. So we just said that this is simply a placeholder and that whenever we start using the interface, we're going to use a particular type, right? So in this case, what is the type of the content that we're passing? It's a string, right? So our T in this case will be a string. Therefore, when I'm using the interface, I should pass inside of angle brackets a string, right? And can I create another message with a different structure? I certainly can. I can now create a second object, const message2, which for now, I'm just going to leave as a message. I'm going to come back to fill that in a bit. And let's see, the sender will be, let's say, Mincho. The recipient is going to be Mark. And then the content, let's say that the content this time will be a whole object, right? So the content will be an object with text, hi again, and let's say some sort of a timestamp. It doesn't really matter. I'm just making up some properties. Timestamp, I don't know, something random. Whatever, doesn't really matter. All right, so now I just have to go back and fill in the actual type that I'm passing to my interface, right? So the interface is accepting a generic type that it's using for the content. In this case, my content is an object with two properties, text and timestamp. Well, I can fill that in up here, right? So in this case, in the angle brackets, I'm going to say that I'm going to have a full object with text, which is a string, and timestamp, which is a number. And now that works perfectly fine because this whole structure here will be accepted as T. And therefore, we'll expect the content to have the same structure, which in this case it does. So this is how we can use generic types inside of an interface. And a further step we can do in order to simplify our code is this whole thing, because it's very long. We can cut it from here and we can create a separate type for it. We can say full message or something like that equals that thing. But this is just optional, right? If you want to do it, you can use it this way, full message. If you don't really like this style, you can just plug this in here, right? And everything is going to work fine. But that's the idea. So when you create an interface, you set some sort of a placeholder for the type of one or more properties. In this case, only one property. We don't really know the type, so we're setting a placeholder. And then once you start using the interface, you will have to fill in that place, right? That's currently missing. So, for example, you're going to say that the type of content will be a string, or in this case here, it's a full-blown object. Or you could use any other type for that matter. I just thought these ones suit the use case that we're using best. So yeah, that's the general concept of using interfaces with generics. If you have any questions, as usual, don't hesitate to share them in the comments, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.